John, first of all, from your perspective and that of the club, how important is it that this date is marked every year?
Well, up until now, it's still the biggest disaster that ever happened to Scottish football. Unfortunately and regretfully, it happened to us. And it affected so many people. I mean, the fans are the lifeblood of this club. And I think it's only right and proper that the club recognises this date every year. I know this year's a special year, but really it's a special year for everybody that had relatives in that disaster.
Of course, everyone's thoughts always remain with the relatives, the families. For yourself as the Rangers captain on that day, how did the events of that day still live with you all these years later?
Well, it's hard to believe it's 50 years ago, because there's certain things still very fresh in my mind. I think the world wasn't the same then as it is now, and there was no mobile phones and things. And I had friends up from England, and of course it was national news, and their parents were trying to check and see where they were and everything. It was a big, big thing. And quite honestly, I think the way that Willie Waddle handled the whole situation was unbelievable.
Absolutely. For yourself, as you say, you had friends up from England. What happened on that day? How did that affect you? I mean, because you were still, still a relatively young man.
Yeah, I've got to say, it was quite a shock, because I think I was one of the last people to leave the dressing room, because I'd got an injury and I was getting it strapped, an ankle strapped or something. And they told me to go out quick because they were bringing bodies into the dressing room. Something like that never leaves your mind. And I walked down the tunnel before I went home, and all the bodies were lined out along the side of the pitch. It was shocking. And I still think to this day, it's unbelievable that somebody in a family goes to a football match and never comes back. I think that must be very, very difficult to live with.
It was a tragedy that affected not just Rangers but the whole of Scottish society. Can you remember in the aftermath how people came together to try and recover from what happened?
Well, that's where Willie Waddle came into his own, because he organised everything whereby we went to every person's house that we could. He split the playing squad up, and we went to everybody's house. We didn't get met with the same at every house. I mean, these people were devastated, and we offered our condolences, and he made sure that every one of the funerals there was representatives from the team and the club at every funeral. So he did, marvellous job then, Willie Waddle.
Willie Waddle, not only on the day, the weeks after, but I guess the years after, and the stadium we see today is very much in tribute in some senses to those who died.
I think the stadium today is a testament to that day, because Willie Waddle swore that as long as he has anything to do with it, not another Rangers supporter or a supporter of any team would have an unfortunate injury or to them like what happened that day. He actually started off then to make sure that the stadium was going to be one of the safest stadiums in Great Britain, to such a level that a guy called Justice Taylor came up from London, because there was a lot of problems at that time about stadia, the safety in stadia, and this Lord Justice Taylor came up from London, and he went round this whole place when the stadium was finished, and quite a number of the stadia in the United Kingdom were based on the safety first aspects of this stadium. So he did a duty to British football as well as Scottish football.
How do you think the club was able to recover from the events that day, maybe short term and then longer term?
Well, it's such a long time ago. As I said, some things are very fresh in my mind. Others, I don't think we played for about 2 weeks after it. It was a strange atmosphere. The first game we played in the stadium, quite a few were affected with it, the players. But we just had to get on with it. And the stadium was full every other week anyway, so I think with respect to the supporters, we had to try and do something for them. The respect I have for the supporters will always be the big thing in my life. And as long as I'm here and able to attend, coming to games and things at Ibrox, I will make sure that they're never forgotten. I'm quite sure that the club itself will never forget them. And that is the reason why the 2nd of January is always a special day in my life, and it's a special day in this club's life.